Hello, Tyler Mastrangelo here again for the second presentation. This presentation I will be discussing how a union can most effectively bargain for higher wages and benefits. I will also provide advice to a union on how they can maximize their effectiveness when negotiating with their employer. I'll also get into some bargaining strategies that unions can use, and the advice that I'll be giving is both practical and legal. So the critical reason that U.S. labor law protects workers' efforts at forming unions is because it's to balance the power between a company and a group of employees. Uh, throughout this course, it has been learned that employers and employees employers have had more power than employees over time. So getting back to the advice, so there are 60 days before the existing contract expires. The parties have to provide official notification to their employer and to the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service that they intend to negotiate a new contract. The bargaining teams will establish a schedule of bargaining sessions and set ground rules for the negotiation that is going to be coming up. And the side that wants to change the contract traditionally makes the opening proposals that marks the beginning of the bargaining session. So in this case, the union will start the negotiation because they want higher wages and benefits. So first, a team must be assembled. Union bargaining committees are usually elected by rank and file. It is usually recommended that a union gets a national union staff representative so they can assist with the negotiations for the union. These union staff representatives help with finding compensation and benefit trends and recent settlements, so that helps with the negotiating as well. Both sides should conduct thorough reviews of how the expiring collective bargaining agreement has performed and which section of the contracts that have created problems that should be noted. The next step is preparing for negotiations is collecting information. The union needs to get together their top priorities. In this case, it would be higher wages and benefits. And there are 5 essential things that unions must determine, and that is their interests, so wages and benefits, the options for achieving those interests, external benchmarks for fairness, the interest of management side, and the best alternative to a negotiating agreement, which is bad debt. So now preparing to bargain. The union should start off by electing a bargaining committee and determining the responsibilities of them. They should identify membership concerns and goals, which would be higher wages and benefits. They should then review the current contract and discuss the issues they have with the national union. They should develop bargaining proposals. Then the union should notify their employer and the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service of their intent to bargain. So now we're going to physically bargaining with the employer. The union has to establish ground rules and with the management side. So they need to use, while at the table, they need to use communication, relationship building, and problem solving skills to reach an agreement, or at least a tentative agreement. So the union needs to have test the next debrief membership and conduct contract ratification vote and obtain national union approval. They also need to make strike preparations if needed. So if the managers don't agree to their terms, they can go on a strike if needed. And then the next step would be signing the new contract if there's no strike that's needed. So while at the bargaining table, the employees and the employers have to bargain in good faith. Well, the NRLA requires that. The most important example of bad faith bargaining would be surface bargaining, and that is when either the employer or the union goes through the motions of bargaining but does not necessarily try to reach an agreement. So good faith bargaining requires that the parties must make a serious attempt to resolve differences and reach a common ground. So when bargaining, there are a few mandatory bargaining items. So obviously wage reduction and better benefits, Some other examples would be bonus plans, health insurance payments, pension contributions, work schedules and vacations, seniority provisions. Um, there are some permissive bargaining items that you're not allowed to bargain at the table with, and that would be plan closing, union representation on the board of directors, drug and alcohol screening for applicants, benefits for retirees, interest arbitration, things like that. So now I'm going to get into some strategies of some fundamental strategy of bargaining, and the first one is distributive bargaining, which is also referred to as zero-sum bargaining. And this is it's used to resolve conflicts of interest, where it distributes the share of the pie, and the more one side receives, the less the other side receives. So in distributive bargaining, you may find some pressure tactics, which includes increasing the other side's cost of not making an agreement, which increases the cost of not making an agreement, which would be union rallies, and that disrupts production and brings negative publicity to the employer. This is also where BATNA comes into play, where employees' alternatives, where they can include a strike or looking for work elsewhere. The strategy I suggest is integrated bargaining strategy, which is the win-win bargaining, and this seeks to unify the common interest of the parties to a negotiation so that all can become better off. So you may have to the employees may have to work longer hours, but they'd be getting the higher wages and benefits that they want. It's give and take. So they have to focus on the interests of each party, not just the union's party. You have to focus on the manager's interest as well. You have to identify the issue, which would be the union side and the management side, and basically brainstorm for options to how to solve the issue. And while all this is going on, intra-organizational bargaining is also taking place in between the union group and the management group. It results from the presence of diverse workers and diverse interests of these workers and management side. So, for instance, on the union side, employees who are older may be more interested in retirement benefits rather than higher wages, or workers with children may be more interested in health insurance benefits. It all depends on the people in the union. So, negotiations are usually always settled last minute. Because if it's not, that means it's suspicious that maybe the negotiations haven't been fought hard enough. Successful negotiations usually conclude with a tentative agreement. If the agreement is only at a tentative stage, because union negotiators or maybe the management side has to obtain formal approval before the settlement becomes official. So that will conclude my presentation. I hope that you enjoyed my advice on how to get higher wages and benefits, and I thank you for your time.